Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Look at that, eh? We did full maintenance yesterday, and it's just stunning. Almost no algae in this tank anymore. Just some residual algae dying off, like on these. I should have probably plucked a bunch of leaves off that, but I'm just going to leave it be because some of them might come back. And I'm not really worried about it. It's not enough rotting vegetation to do anything to my cycle. Speaking of cycles, I really wanted to make this video about cycles, about aquarium cycles. It's a big topic, the aquarium cycle, and there's a lot of nonsense out there when it comes to it. Now, if you go around the trend for the last couple of years, and let me put an exclamation mark on that, last couple of years. The aquarium hobby is decades old, even centuries old, and I assure you that a lot of the stuff that you're going to find on the internet right now about keeping clean, clear water it's guiding you astray. Everybody's jumped on board. It's the new craze. It's almost a cult. And quite frankly, hey, they can do it their way, right? But they're sitting there telling people that this is how to do it. And then people are just basically building themselves a big stinky swamp tank that's really not healthy for any fish whatsoever. Now, there are fish who will cope with it better than others. Basically, nano fish and swamp fish and live bearers. The stuff that you would find in a pond in Asia or wherever. Not something like cichlids. You don't want to do that to cichlids. Definitely don't want to do it to anything like that's considered an ornamental fish. If you want to look for cues on how to behave when it comes to clear water, you're better off nowadays watching reef channels and how they deal with keeping things clean, because they know they have to keep it clean. Okay, and reefers are like discus keepers. It's all in the water. And the thing about a cycle, a quote unquote natural cycle in a dirted tank that's got like this much substrate on the bottom, eating up volume and space, you're creating a time bomb when you go that route. It's a time bomb. You might be okay for a little while, but most people want to keep their tanks for many years, and I assure you, you do that, and in a year you'll be ripping that tank apart because all your fish are just not doing well. Your water's cloudy. Every time I see someone doing that, their water's cloudy. They think it's clear, but it's not clear. Clear is like you don't even know the water's there. That's what clear is. And it took me a long time to even get there. And it's not because I have half an inch. I only keep like half an inch of substrate. It's 50-50 gravel and sand, and it's very shallow on purpose because I don't want it collecting detritus. I want the detritus to stay on top and get into my filters. And that's how this works. People will tell you, discus tanks need low flow. Again, nonsense. Stagnant water's bad. These are river fish. They are from the Amazon River basin. They're accustomed to flow, and they like it. There's a lot of bad information out there. The other thing that one of these natural tanks do is they put all sorts of biology into your water column when you do that. And then you don't want any, and this is my opinion, and people will disagree with me, I'm sure, But my opinion is you don't want any, as in none. You don't want anything living in your water column. Not even bacteria. And you might say, well, Sean, that bacteria in your water column will help your cycle. No, that bacteria in your water column is dangerous and detrimental to your cycle. It's that's why people wake up in the morning and their fish were fine the night before, and then they're all dead in the morning. You had too much bacteria in your water and not on the surfaces. And let me explain why that is. See, people just don't understand biology, and they follow like the pack, like a bunch of Kool-Aid drinkers following Jim Jones. And quite literally, that's what's going on right now. YouTube actually has a fish equivalent to Jim Jones. And he's sitting there with a whole bunch of training in the, religions and masses. I should say cults and masses. And he's using that experience to finally achieve a following for once in his life. And I'm sure he's having a great time. Hats off to him. He got there. It's been his life's goal. He did it this way, and that's fine. But in an era that, everybody's worried about the information being, not correct. I don't even want to use the terms the media's been using because it's just been completely butchered. But what that man has done, and I'm not mentioning names, you all know who I'm talking about, okay, is he's taken what we used to do back in the day when it came to setting up a fish bowl. Okay, everything he teaches you is what you apply to keeping a small little fish bowl. It was the best way to keep a fish bowl. Everything he says, and he's taken that, applied it to fish tanks, and said, "Oh, look, it's a revolution." It's not a revolution. It's not the Wallstead method. He's butchered the whole idea. And he's got people, basically, he's encouraging people to build swamps in their houses and run fish in them, and it's not healthy. It's just not healthy. Even in a swamp, okay, a fish in a swamp is swimming in millions of gallons of water, typically. Okay, it's a big, huge, swampy area. There's so much water there that it's not the same thing. You can't simulate a swamp in a tank. You don't have enough water volume. I'm sorry. If your water is yellow and it looks like it's been peed in, it's because it's yellow and it's been peed in by your fish for months because you're following this nonsense. You're letting your animals swim in a septic tank. Would you swim in a septic? Would you sit in your bathtub even for an evening, even for a day, and think about how many times you got to just urinate in a day? Now, what would happen to that water? What would happen to your skin in that water as the ammonia levels climb and so on? And they're like, oh no, Sean, but all the nature kills all of the ammonia. Just give me a freaking break. It's also eating up all the minerals in the water that aren't being replaced unless you're adding additives. I don't add any additives to my water. I use discus trace occasionally, and I've stopped using it because I don't even think it brings me much benefit. I mean, a capful or two after a water change might bring on some breeding behavior, but I'm not even sure it's doing that. So, I really don't use it. The only thing I use is prime in my tanks. I don't want even medicines in here. I don't want salts in here. Nothing. And I've worked to find the equipment I need to keep my water column bacteria free. I've finally managed to do that. And there's over a year of trial and error getting here. But I've nailed it. Okay. I have no substrate, literally almost none in any of my tanks. I overfiltered because there's no such thing as overfilter. I'm just filtering adequately. That should be the new word. I filter adequately, because to say the word overfilter, and that's what a lot of people are doing on YouTube, suggests that you're doing it too much. And that's the interesting thing about language and narratives is You know, they get selective on the language to push their narrative. And they say something like, well, you're over filtering. There is no such thing as over filtering. The word over filtering suggests there is some kind of detriment to the idea. There is none. These filters all run on little magnets. It probably cost you 15 cents a month. So even the electricity cost is retarded to complain about, quite literally. I mean, if you don't filter enough and your fish get sick, the amount of money you're going to spend on medications will far exceed that 10 or 15 or 35 cents a month to run a filter. Okay? And then there's people who sit there and add up that 35 cents over the course of the year. Give me a freaking break. Just give me a break. You know, I'm heating barrels all over my house. I hardly notice my hydro bill change. And that's all there is to it. There's other things in my house that eat so much power that I don't see this crap. Fish tanks don't take up jack squat. So, over filtering as a word is it's an oxymoron. It just shouldn't be even used. Adequately filter. I adequately filter my tanks. I have adequate amounts of biomaterial in my sump. There's no need to put biomaterial in your tank. I get that people might not have a sump. Still don't put 6 inches of stuff in your tank. You'll spend more on the substrate than you would unless you buy cheap sand or something, or use something free or whatever. But you go buy like pet shop substrate, you're going to spend more on that than you would on building a sump. It's the truth. Buy very little substrate. Buy yourself they're $1 a gallon. Get yourself a 20-gallon tank, stick it underneath your thing. I've got videos to show you how to make an overflow so you don't have to drill a hole on the cheap, and it's easy to use. It's probably the easiest overflow I've ever seen, and it's nothing like anything else on YouTube. And I've been running 2 of them downstairs on the big 450-gallon system. So yeah, there's a way to do everything, but I'll tell you right now, these quote-unquote natural tanks, okay, are just a lazy man's excuse to say he's a fish keeper. A house full of tanks filled up with water, they get top-ups month after month. Oh, look at me. My guppies are doing so wonderful in this swamp. Well, I mimicked those tanks. I went out to a river. I made videos of it. They're there. I got the river mud and the biology, and then I put a thick coat of gravel in and planted plants. I did it all. It didn't even take 2 weeks, and that tank was just reeking. It stunk up my whole house. It was only a 20-gallon. I can't imagine walking into that man's house or anyone's house like that. There's another guy who does the same thing. Refers to himself as the green water Jesus. He had to go build in a garage out back because I'm sure his wife wouldn't let him keep those in the house. An open air garage, basically. So you get my point, I think. I don't know. Maybe some people in there right now are like, well, I just set up one of those tanks and it doesn't stink yet. Yeah, well, I don't know. Give it some time. Maybe you're doing water changes. This is a no water change tank this guy's telling you to make. So if you're doing no water changes and it's been running for a few weeks, it should be stinking. It should, and it's got fish in it. It should be stinking. It's not going to look like this. It's going to get cloudy. It's going to get full of bacteria. You're not going to have a cycle. If your cycle is depending on free floating bacteria in your water, you failed. You failed. Your fish, it's a matter of time. You're going to kill everything. I don't care what anybody says. It's just a matter of time. And you won't be able to keep any serious fish in a tank like that. Okay, you'll be able to keep the fish that we used to recommend to children as back in the day when I was young in the pet shop world. Almost said his name. Not going to say it. That dude literally has like beginner level fish. Okay, hardest to kill beginner level fish thrown in a tank, the stuff you would give to a 9-year-old, and he's saying, look at me and my oversized fishbowl methods. It's ridiculous. It really is. And it's hurting the hobby. And people need to start taking a step back and saying, you know what kind of fish keeper do you want to be? If that's the kind of fish keeper you want to be, and it lights your fire, then by all means. I mean, it's a free world, right? Let's give them a little food here. They're hungry. But if you want a successful tank, you got to use all the types of filtration. They all have strengths. Hang-on backs have strengths. Sponge filters like that in the corner have strengths. UVs have strengths. You don't sit there, run a tank with just sponge filters and say Mother Nature is going to take care of it all. It reminds me of the Trailer Park Boys, and maybe a lot of Americans don't know that show, but check it out. It's freaking hilarious. It's a Canadian mockumentary. And there's this guy in there named Ricky. And he basically thinks that if you just throw the garbage into the lake, Mother Nature is going to take care of it. And that's what I hear every time I listen to that guy going off on his tangents about, sticking mud and leaves in tanks and it's going to make your fish. It's just nonsense. I've never heard anything more ridiculous in my life. It's literally animal abuse, in my opinion. It's animal abuse. Okay, it's like never cleaning up a pig pen. It's like never cleaning up your dog kennel. Oh no, it's good for them. Yeah, it's all natural. No, the dogs like to roll in the piss and the poo. Think about what you're doing, folks. I mean, are you a fish keeper or are you a cult member? That is the question. Fish keepers, in my day, aimed for clear water. So if that makes me an old school fish keeper, then so be it. I would rather be that way than some lazy bum trying to con the world into killing their fish. And that's it. Maybe I'm just being a little over opinionated, maybe. And everybody gets to do what they want. But I'm saying this because I see animal abuse, and that's all it is. That's all it is to me. It's animal abuse. So, if you're out to keep fish and you're the type of person that likes to do the best for, say, your pets and your family, and you've been conned down that path, give it a real, give yourself, just give yourself the moment to think. It's not your fault. I mean, it looks like the thing to do if you're new to this hobby, because it's dominating the clickbait streams, right? But it's not correct. It's just, I don't know. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, everyone that's doing that is practicing animal abuse. You're being lazy, and you're justifying it. That's all you're doing. I hope you all have a great day. We'll catch you on the next one.